Republic of the Philippines. Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases. Omnibus Guidelines on the Implementation of Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine in the Philippines, with amendments as of July 16, 2020. Section 1. Definition of terms. For purposes of these guidelines, the following shall be defined as follows. 1. Accommodation establishments refers to an establishment operating primarily for accommodation purposes including, but not limited to, hotels, resorts, apartment hotels, tourist inns, motels, pension houses, private homes used for homestay, ecolodges, service departments, condotels, and bed and breakfast facilities. As amended by paragraph 01 of IATF Resolution No. 43, June 3th 2020. 2. Comorbidity refers to the presence of a pre-existing chronic disease condition. 3. Community quarantine refers to the restriction of movement within, into, or out of the area of quarantine of individuals, large groups of people, or communities, designed to reduce the likelihood of transmission of an infectious disease among persons and into persons outside the affected area. 4. COVID-19 refers to the coronavirus disease 2019 which is caused by the virus known as the Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2. 5. Enhanced Community Quarantine refers to the implementation of temporary measures imposing stringent limitations on movement and transportation of people, strict regulation of operating industries, provision of food and essential services, and heightened presence of uniformed personnel to enforce community quarantine protocols. 6. Essential Goods and Services covers health and social services to secure the safety and well-being of persons, such as but not limited to, food, water, medicine, medical devices, public utilities, energy, and others as may be determined by the IATF. 7. General Community Quarantine refers to the implementation of temporary measures limiting movement and transportation, regulation of operating industries, and presence of uniformed personnel to enforce community quarantine protocols. 8. Health and Emergency Frontline Services refers to services provided by public health workers, all employees of the Department of Health, DOH, DO hospitals, hospitals of LGUs, and provincial, city, and rural health units, and drug abuse treatment and rehabilitation centers including those managed by other government agencies, for example police and military hospitals, clinics, university medical facilities, uniformed medical personnel, private health workers, such as but not limited to medical professionals, hospital and health facility administrative and maintenance staff, and aides from private health facilities, as well as their service providers, health workers and volunteers of the Philippine Red Cross and the World Health Organization, and employees of health maintenance organizations, HMOs, the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, PHIC, health insurance providers, disaster risk reduction management officers, and public safety officers. 9. Interzonal movement, the movement of people, goods and services across areas under different community quarantine classifications. 10. Intrazonal movement, the movement of people, goods and services between localities under the same community quarantine classification, without transiting through an area placed under a different classification. 11. Minimum Public Health Standards refers to guidelines set by the DO under Administrative Order No. 2020-0015, as well as sector-relevant guidelines issued by national government agencies as authorized by the IATF, to aid all sectors in all settings to implement non-pharmaceutical interventions, NPI, which refer to public health measures that do not involve vaccines, medications or other pharmaceutical interventions, which individuals and communities can carry out in order to reduce transmission rates, contact rates, and the duration of infectiousness of individuals in the population to mitigate COVID-19. For this purpose, the Department of Tourism and Department of Public Works and Highways are recognized as the sector-relevant agencies with respect to tourism and construction, respectively. 12. Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine refers to the transition phase between MECQ and GCQ, when the following temporary measures are relaxed and become less necessary: stringent limits on movement and transportation of people, strict regulation of operating industries, provision of food and essential services, and heightened presence of uniformed personnel to enforce community quarantine protocols. 13. Modified General Community Quarantine refers to the transition phase between GCQ and the new normal, when the following temporary measures are relaxed and become less necessary: limiting movement and transportation, the regulation of operating industries, and the presence of uniformed personnel to enforce community quarantine protocols. 14. New normal refers to the emerging behaviors, situations, and minimum public health standards that will be institutionalized in common or routine practices and remain even after the pandemic while the disease is not totally eradicated through means such as widespread immunization. These include actions that will become second nature to the general public as well as policies such as bans on large gatherings that will continue to remain in force. 15. Operational capacity refers to such a number of employees or workers who can be permitted or required to physically report to work on-site in a particular office or establishment. 16. Skeleton workforce refers to the operational capacity which utilizes the smallest number of people needed for a business or organization to maintain its basic functions. Guidelines for areas placed under Modified Enhanced Community Quarantine. Areas placed under MECQ shall observe the following protocols. 1. Minimum public health standards shall be complied with at all times for the duration of the MECQ. 2. Strict home quarantine shall be observed in all households, and the movement of all residents shall still be limited to accessing essential goods and services, and for work in permitted offices or establishments or such other activities listed hereunder. 3. Any person below 21 years old, those who are 60 years old and above, those with immunodeficiency, comorbidity, or other health risks, and pregnant women, including any person who resides with the aforementioned, shall be required to remain in their residences at all times, except when indispensable under the circumstances for obtaining essential goods and services, for work in industries and offices or such other activities permitted in this section. 4. The following shall be allowed to operate at full operational capacity. A. All establishments, persons, or activities permitted to operate, work, or be undertaken under Section 2.4 of these guidelines. B. Media establishments, without need of MECQ accreditation. C. BPOs and export-oriented establishments, without need to set up on-site or near-site accommodation arrangements. D. E-commerce companies. E. Other postal and courier services, as well as delivery services for articles or products not mentioned under Section 2 of these omnibus guidelines. F. Rental and leasing, other than real estate, such as vehicles and equipment for permitted sectors. G. Employment activities that involve the recruitment and placement for permitted sectors, and H. Housing services activities, such as but not limited to plumbing, roofing, and electrical works. 5. The following offices, establishments or individuals conducting or providing the following activities or services are allowed to operate at 50% operational capacity, while encouraging work from home and other flexible work arrangements, where applicable. A. Other manufacturing industries classified as beverages, including alcoholic drinks, electrical machinery, wood products and furniture, non-metallic products, textiles and clothing, wearing apparels, tobacco products, paper and paper products, rubber and plastic products, coke and refined petroleum products, other non-metallic mineral products, computers, electronic and optical products, electrical equipment, machinery and equipment, motor vehicles, trailers and semi-trailers, other transport equipment, and others. B. Other real estate activities. C. Administrative and office support such as, but not limited to, providing photocopying and billing services. D. Other financial services not mentioned in Section 2 of these omnibus guidelines, such as money exchange, insurance, reinsurance and non-compulsory pension funding. E. Legal and accounting services. F. Management consultancy services or activities. G. Architectural and engineering activities, including technical testing and analysis. H. Science and technology, and research and development. I. Recruitment and placement agencies for overseas employment. J. Advertising and market research. K. Computer programming and information management services. L. Publishing and printing services. M. Film, music and television production. N. Photography, fashion, and industrial, graphic and interior design. O. Wholesale and retail trade of vehicles and their parts and components. P. Repair and maintenance of vehicles as well as its parts or components, including car wash services. Q. Malls and commercial centers, subject to the guidelines issued by the DDI. R. Dining establishments and restaurants, but for delivery and takeout only. S. Hardware stores. T. Clothing and accessories. U. Bookstore and school and office supplies. V. Baby or infant care supplies. W. Pet food and pet care supplies. X. Information technology, communications and electronic equipment. Y. Flower, jewelry, novelty, antique and perfume shops, and Z. Toy stores, provided that their playgrounds and amusement areas, if any, shall remain closed. A. Firearms and ammunition trading establishments, subject to strict regulation of the Plug-and-Play Firearms and Explosives Office, and B. Pastors, priests, rabbi, imams, and other religious ministers insofar as providing home religious services to households, provided that proper protocols shall be observed, such as social distancing, wearing of face masks and the like. 6. Agencies and instrumentalities of the government, including GOCs, as well as LGUs may operate with a skeleton workforce in combination with other alternative work arrangements as approved by the head of agency unless a different operational capacity is required in agencies providing health and emergency frontline services, border control, and other critical services. 7. Accredited diplomatic missions and international organizations shall be advised to operate under a skeleton workforce, without prejudice to alternative work arrangements as the said missions or organizations may deem proper. 8. Hotels or accommodation establishments shall not be allowed to operate, except those accommodating the following. A. For guests who have existing booking accommodations for foreigners as of March 17, 2024 Luzon and May 1, 2024 other areas. B. Guests who have existing long-term bookings. C. Distressed OFWs and stranded Filipinos or foreign nationals. D. Repatriated OFWs in compliance with approved quarantine protocols. E. Non-OFWs who may be required to undergo mandatory facility-based quarantine, and F. Healthcare workers and other employees, whether private or public, from exempted establishments under these omnibus guidelines and applicable memoranda from the Executive Secretary, provided that accommodation establishments may operate only upon the issuance of a certificate of authority to operate by the DOT, provided further, that in all of the foregoing, hotel operations shall be limited to the provision of basic accommodation services to guests through an in-house skeleton workforce. Ancillary establishments within the premises, such as restaurants, cafes, bars, gyms, spas, and the like, shall not be allowed to operate or to provide room service, provided finally, that accommodation establishments may prepare, a. packed meals for distribution to guests who opt for the same, and b. food orders for takeout and delivery only. As amended by paragraph 2 of IATF Resolution No. 43, June 3 th 2020. 9. Mass gatherings such as but not limited to, movie screenings, concerts, sporting events, and other entertainment activities, community assemblies, and non-essential work gatherings shall be prohibited. Gatherings that are for the provision of critical government services and authorized humanitarian activities while adhering to the prescribed minimum health standards shall be allowed. Religious gatherings shall be limited to not more than five persons until otherwise modified through subsequent issuances of the IATF. 10. Face-to-face or in-person classes at all levels shall be suspended. 11. Public transportation shall be suspended. This notwithstanding, commission shuttle services for employees of permitted offices or establishments, as well as point-to-point transport services provided by the government shall be allowed to operate, giving priority to healthcare workers. 12. Private transportation such as company shuttles and personal vehicles utilized by persons authorized outside their residences are allowed subject to the guidelines provided by DOTR. The use of bikes and other non-motorized transportation is strongly encouraged. 13. Limited operations in malls and shopping centers shall be allowed, except for leisure establishments and services which shall continue to be closed. Provided that establishments and services allowed to operate in malls and shopping centers may only operate at a capacity consistent with items 4 and 5 of this section. Provided, further, those below 21 years old, and those 60 years old and above and those with immunodeficiency, comorbidity, or other health risks, and pregnant women, including any person who resides with the aforementioned, may not enter malls and shopping centers except when indispensable under the circumstances for obtaining essential goods and services or for work in establishments located therein. Provided, finally, that such operations must comply with the guidelines of the DTI until otherwise modified through subsequent issuances of the IATF. 14. In addition to those allowed and enumerated construction projects under Section 2 of these guidelines, other essential and priority public and private construction projects shall be allowed, subject to compliance with the DPWH construction safety guidelines, provided, however, that small-scale projects as defined by the DPWH shall not be allowed. 15. The following shall not be allowed to operate within an area under MECQ. A. Tourist destinations such as water parks, reservation service and related services. B. Entertainment industries such as cinemas, theaters, and karaoke bars. C. Kid amusement industries such as playroom and kiddie rides. D. Libraries, archives, museums and cultural centers. E. Gyms, fitness studios and sports facilities, and F. Personal care services such as massage parlors, sauna, facial care and waxing. 16. The provisions relative to processing of payrolls, the rapid pass system, use of government-owned or hired vehicles and identification cards for humanitarian assistance actors and public and private employees in areas under ECQ shall likewise apply in areas under MECQ. 17. Individual outdoor exercise such as outdoor walks, jogging, running or biking are allowed within MECQ areas. Provided that the minimum health standards and precautions such as the wearing of masks and the maintenance of social distancing protocols are observed. 18. Other exemptions from the ECQ through previous IATF resolutions or issuances by the Office of the President shall also be applied in MECQ.